Do we not see people?
No, you do not. You guys are ready to go.
Perfect. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Right now, it looks like we've got over 380 participants. So thanks for turning out on a early Wednesday morning. We are going to go through, obviously, information regarding House File 2591 and the emergency rules adopted by the Department of Education. Appreciate your patience as we work through all of this. This is some new information for us to process as well. We are recording the meeting.
Hang on. Jason, can you make sure that I get permission to record? Okay, we're
Should be
good.
good now.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we are recording this meeting and it will be available on both our websites, and Tom has mentioned he's going to send this out on his executive director's report next Monday morning. So again, this will be available to you all if you're not able to make it, or know people who can't join today. So just really want to talk about some housekeeping things for today's webinar. So the goal isn't necessarily to have every answer to every situation, but for us to be able to provide as much clarity as we can as where things stand today. We're going to walk through the guidance that has been issued and to help you identify the next steps that you'll need to take locally. The most important thing to remember is that with the new rules created, there's opportunities for local decision making, which is why you're all joining us this morning. So school leaders, your boards will ultimately determine what participation looks like in your district. And our goal is to help you make those decisions with some confidence and some consistency. Earlier on this week, both of our organizations put out the same FAQ, frequently asked questions document that's available on our website. And I think we sent out a couple different links about it. So please familiarize yourselves with this document. Check back on it as we're going to continue to update that as we get more clarification from the Department of Ed on the questions that we've had to them. So I'm going to let Tom talk a little bit about where we are in the process right
now. Well, as you know, the State Board of Education approved the emergency rules that the Department of Ed drafted. Now, those rules were drafted in conjunction with us. Aaron and I had an opportunity to sit with the Department of Ed. They go a little bit different direction than we do. We look at this through your lens, which is, what kinds of specific things do you really need to know? And they look at it a little bit more broadly. How can they write the rules and not make them so restrictive that there's no leeway? So understand that was part of it. The other is that these emergency rules simply get us out of the starting blocks. This law takes effect August 1st. It was going to take effect August 1st, even if the State Board of Education did not approve the emergency rules, which, lucky for all of us, they did. But it's going to take place. So the DE needed to get some rules put in place. They had a very truncated timetable, and they felt like going the emergency rule process was best suited for that. So what that means is that there is now a full rules process that kicks in. So just like any other rules the Department of Ed would write, it goes through a process, and that process is pretty lengthy. It involves 2 public comment periods. I would encourage you to get familiar with it. Send questions through the public comment portal, and it will be then reviewed. It will be presented to the State Board of Education. It will be reviewed by a legislative group, and ultimately will be presented again to the State Board of Ed for consideration to approve. That's going to take a bit. So here we are with these emergency rules that have kicked in, and we are now charged with trying to, I wouldn't call it interpret it, but take those, understand them, and then help you navigate through this. And that's our goal, really. We know that your board, as Aaron mentioned, this goes nowhere without your board approving or adopting a policy about it. This is what the DE would call a power, not a duty, which means you have the authority, your school district has the authority to do this, but they are not required to do it. My guess is almost everyone, if not everyone, will do this. I think we need to accept that we're going to learn as we go, that there are going to be things that pop up that you're going to say, well, what about this or what about this? And you're not even going to know some of those things until parents ask questions, coaches ask questions, et cetera. I think at the beginning of anything, right, like this, any transition, big transition as this is, the anxiety and the angst comes from the unknowns. Once the unknowns become knowns, then things settle down a little bit, and we sort of get to business. We like to look forward. You know, Aaron and I have talked about this. If we look 3 years out, we're going to be in a much better place with this than we are today because we're at the beginning. So I think patience is important. I think staying calm is important. I think getting your questions answered is most important, and that's why we're here, and we'll continue to be here to do that as much as possible. If there's any advice I could give you, which I am not in the business of giving too much advice, but if there's any advice I could give you, it would be start slow and start small. You can always expand the opportunities. You can always see where it's working, it's not working, and adjust accordingly. The bigger you go, the faster you go, the harder that might be to rein it back in. So, you know, in terms of should we have 60 eighth graders try out for, you know, basketball? That's up to you. That's up to you. That would not be starting small. So I would say, you know, be selective, be careful, have a process in place that everybody understands. This is how we're going to make these decisions, and I think you'll be fine. So, Aaron, back to you, but that's sort of where we are in the process right now.
Yep. So we're going to go through, again, some of those key takeaways that we have pulled from the document that was shared from the Department of Education. But then also we are going to start into some questions that we have received, and we'll give you our answers on those. And then we'll open up some time if you want to use the chat box after we are done going through our stuff to just make sure that we're not being redundant or repetitive in our answers. But that's what this is for as well. So we'll monitor those things and give you guys some feedback there. So again, the key takeaways, this is a local decision. School boards need to make decisions and set policy for their own districts. The biggest takeaway is from the guidance is that local boards have significant flexibility. And so again, having this a continued topic of discussion with your school boards, start in on that now. If you have not been in communication with your school board members about this, setting up some planning meetings will be really important there. And a district may choose whether to allow eighth grade participation at all. It's not automatic. So you guys may decide what sports are included or excluded from this. School boards may also determine whether participation is limited to certain levels of competition. It may establish additional local expectations, including academic standards, if it chooses. So just want to reiterate those things. The other key takeaway here, and a lot of the things that our questions are surrounding, students must choose one level during a particular sport. So I know the language was used sports season, so then that causes some confusion about, are we looking at fall, winter, spring as sports seasons? But our interpretation of that is per sport. So this will also impact those who have allowed fluctuation between junior high and high school softball and baseball in the past. So this will be the last season that is allowed. Again, this is something that falls into a place of consistency. It's not, softball and baseball will not be grandfathered in. This is probably one of the most frequently asked questions that we've seen. And then again, as Tom mentioned, there will be some questions that we won't have answers to until August 1st. So again, those recommended action steps moving forward for you all is to meet with your administrative team, get things on the calendar, start talking to your board leadership, review each sport individually, really have an idea of what you think your roster sizes could potentially be. Just a lot of proactive and forward thinking on some of these things. Develop clear criteria that you all as an administrative team and a school board can really live with starting out, and communicate that out to folks within your district. Just like you all want to know the information that we've received, your communities will really want to know the information that is trickling down. So be cognizant of that. You can't do enough to communicate enough in that space. So I think, Tom, we can kind of get into some of these questions.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Aaron, just
jump in.
One additional piece of this is, if you read the bill originally, the key thing, I thought the key phrase in there was that 8th graders may participate under the same circumstances as grades 9 through 12. And so when you're trying to decide how to navigate this, think about what do we do with our 9th graders right now? How do we decide if a 9th grader or do we leave it to coaches? Are the ADs involved? Our parents? If a 9th grader is going to move up to varsity, or what sport could they do that in versus maybe they're going to have to play freshman level somewhere else? So think a little bit in that realm, and it will help. But it's new territory. We get it. And, that's why I think the local piece is the most important part of this. And Aaron and I stress that. And I hope you guys know that we stress that to support you, not to put more pressure on you, because your programs, your athletes, your community, your schools better than maybe the Department of Ed does, either Aaron or I. So we thought we wanted to give you as much of this and give your school district as much of this, opportunity as we could. So thanks, Aaron. Sorry to interrupt there.
Nope, that's great. So we're going to get into, again, we've got some of the specific questions that we've received from folks. Can a student participate in a sport on the high school team and a different sport on the junior high team? Yes. Again, sport to sport, you guys will help to make those decisions. And along those same lines, could an 8th grader compete for a high school cross country team and in that same fall season still play junior high volleyball, junior high football in that same fall season? Yes. Assuming your district, again, allows for dual sport participation in that same season. Can an 8th grader play on the junior high team until his or her season is over and then compete on the high school team? Because we know junior high seasons are shorter than high school seasons. So the answer to that is no. Students may only compete with one team or the other during that designated sports season. Another question that I kind of touched on is, what about baseball and softball for next year? Right now, our school allows them to play both at the junior high and high school level. Will this be grandfathered in? No, if your school is doing this now, this will be the last season that is allowed. Softball and baseball must follow the same rules as the other sports. Can an 8th grade student practice with the high school team and compete with the junior high team? Yes, this is currently something that's allowed right now, and this will continue in regards to practice setup. Junior high and high school can practice at the same time through that season. What determines if a student has established himself or herself as a junior high player or a high school player? So once they are listed on a roster for a game, the student has established where they are eligible to compete. When does the 8th grade year begin? So for the purpose of competing in interscholastic athletic contests or competitions, the 8th grade year begins on the first day of fall practices.
Can I jump in there, Aaron?
Yep.
I know the rural school advocates sent out an email, and in that email, it mentioned that the first day of 8th grade will be August 23rd. That is not written in the rules, and I think they're taking care of the rural school or rural advocates is revising that. But I think they were under the impression that once you officially have your seat your butt in a seat in eighth grade, that's when things would begin. But I think one of the things they didn't consider is that our sports begin before school does. So we are interpreting this the same way we would with eligibility or anything else, that the first day of practice would be when an eighth grader, if you're going to move them to high school level, the eighth grader would be eligible to practice, compete, because we know tennis meets and some 4A golf meets take place prior to school even starting. Thanks.
Yep. Appreciate that, Tom. And Tom, jump in on this next one if you have anything different on it. But how will eighth graders be treated for the purposes of coach-athlete contact rules? So if your district decides to allow eighth grade participation, all eighth graders will be potentially eligible for high school competition, high school athletes. Therefore, coach-athlete contact rules will also apply to eighth graders, regardless if they have ever actually competed at the high school level. Tom, is that what you have been indicating as well?
That's true. And what you'll find, I think after the full rules process, the coach or the summer contact, coach-athlete contact rule, the language will simply change. That will indicate that if a school district allows eighth grade participation, that it would include 8th through 12th graders. Right now, it just says 9th through 12th graders. So that will change. The language should change in there, and that will make it a little bit more clear. But the short version, again, is even if you only, if your school district adopts the policy, then everybody is eligible, even though they may not move up, even though they may not play high school sports at any level. They're still eligible to do that. Therefore, coaches are not going to be able to work with them outside the season during the school year. Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Another question here. If a school decides to have all eighth graders play on high school teams and call their level of play JV2, can they compete against another school who has all eighth graders that call themselves a junior high team or a grade 8 team? And again, the answer to that would be no. So there needs to be a clear delineation between what is a high school, who's competing on the high school space, who is competing in the junior high space. Because there is no crossover in competition, you can't get creative with what you're calling different levels or crossing over levels of play. So just to keep it simple is you can't have high school athletes competing against junior high athletes in that particular sport. So Tom, anything you want to add in on that?
No, I think you covered that right. It's, there's got to be a clear delineation. You're either, this would, it'd be like having a freshman team play against a junior high team. There's a difference. So absolutely no on that one.
Okay. Another question that we got was, we've touched a little bit on the physical forms and things like that, but so there's the new language added to the physical forms online that has a doctor signing off on a kid is physically able to compete at that level of play. What do we do with kids who have already had physicals that are good through next school year and didn't have a doctor sign off? So I don't know exactly, what this school has as far as their makeup of their physicals or whatnot, but I would just say best practices for this would be if you are intending to have an eighth grader play up to that high school space, is to make sure that they are filling out the same information on a physical as your 9th through 12th graders would at that point. So if that is going back and revisiting that or adding another form to their existing physical, I think that would be best practices for the schools at this point. We are working with our sports medicine advisory committee. That is a joint committee between our two organizations that will have them communicate out to as many of your local providers and statewide providers as possible to just kind of keep them in the know on this situation, because we can't assume that, again, our medical providers are in the know when it comes to this information. So it may take a little bit of education on their part of the questions that they're asking and what they're actually signing off on. But again, best practices would be to use that high school form for those eighth graders who may be participating at that level.
And if the question is being asked is, are we going to revise the PPE and then post it? we want to hear from our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee first. If they feel like that deserves a revision, or simply make the professionals aware of the language in the administrative rules by the DE, we will do that. But they'll make that move for now. I think Aaron gave great advice. Just use the same physical form that you're using for high schools, and then our SMAC will communicate out to the medical community.
Okay, so now I'm getting into the Q&A, and I'm going to try to do a little bit of skimming in advance. So this is actually, it's not located in the chat box, but it's in the Q&A box here. So a couple of things. Again, what about basketball or wrestling teams with split season for junior high teams? So again, if you allow dual sport participation, and I'm assuming what you're asking is, can I wrestle varsity girls and then turn around and play my junior high split season for junior high girls basketball? Yes, that would be, you would have the ability to do that. You just, again, would have to work with, your local control to be able to plan that out. But yes, those things would be allowed. We've got something on, will the 140 days, for this would be for the transfer eligibility, start on August 1st, or this will start date be on August 24th this year? So what we have said, this is a great question. We did actually include this in our FAQ and kind of a breakdown of where your fall sports are, and then the rest of the sports start with this. But the 140 days will start at the beginning of the first week of eligible competition for your fall sport. If they're not involved in a fall sport, then it would be their first day of school. But if this student athlete is being involved in a fall sport, so for example, girls tennis, because it starts a lot earlier, their first date of competition, I believe, is like August 3rd. So their count date would be August 1st, because that is the Monday of that first week of competition. Tom, anything to add in on that?
Yeah, I think it gets a little confusing, and what Aaron and I have talked through this on what about kids that are already serving an ineligibility period. If they have been physically present in the school that they transferred or open enrolled to, go back to the day they started. From there, start counting the 140 calendar days. Even though you've been counting 90 school days, with the new law on August 1st, go back and count 140 calendar days from there. Now that's going to include summer days because as per the new rule. However, if they have not been in attendance for classes in the school that they intend to transfer or open enroll to, you can't count it until the first day of either the first week, the Monday of the first week of the competition that they're playing in the fall, or the first day of school if they're not playing anything in the fall. So we'll try to push some things out to be a little bit more clear in that, to give you some specific examples. But the key is, as of August 1st, we are saying everyone, even those currently serving an ineligibility period for transfer or open enrollment, are counting 140 days from the time they have their butt in the seat, or the Monday of the first week of competition for a fall sport if they play the fall sport. Clear as mud.
Yeah. Again, we will put out some additional guidance on that, some language on that. That's easy to follow. So next question: how does this affect sixth graders for summer sports coming up to junior high? I would say that it doesn't impact them any differently. So however you're utilizing them now is how they'll be utilized. Sixth graders in general are not going to be part of your junior high program. So when they say, okay, eighth graders can go up, a natural question would be, okay, so then are we pulling sixth graders up into the junior high space? And the answer is no. If you're utilizing your sixth graders after they finish their 6th grade year. And for junior high baseball or softball, they would still be able to do that. So really nothing changes for 6th graders in that space right now. Next question, are we associations gathering policies from the states that have successfully implemented this? Yes, we're in constant conversation, especially with our Midwest states and the folks who have done it and are currently doing it. We're going to national meetings this weekend out in Salt Lake City. And so this will be another topic of conversation. And we've already kind of talk to some of those folks and set up some more times to meet with them, again, regarding what they do. But since this has been on our radar, we have been in a lot of communication with those states.
I would add to
yeah,
that, 24 other states do this. And those that have been doing it for a while, it's now normalized. And there is not any angst. As a matter of fact, the folks that we talk to, they look at us like, what are you worried about? We've been doing this for years. And we tell them, I'll bet you were a little worried the first year too. But so yeah, the answer is yes. And we have shared that information with the Department of Ed. We've got a few things that we will include in public comment as well. And as Aaron said, we'll be meeting with the exec directors this weekend in Salt Lake City for the national conference. And we'll bounce some things off them as well. So thanks for that question.
Okay, I'm going to jump down. For all contests out of state, would 8th graders be able to compete for our teams if the opposing state does not allow 8th graders to compete in high school? This is a great question. So I think, again, communicating with whatever state you're going down to, I would say, knowing where Aaron Lang is, he's probably talking about Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska. So getting clear answers from them, because they would dictate that as they are the host state. So if they do not allow that, then make sure that you're planning accordingly for that. But on that same note, just as we have not allowed 8th graders to come in and participate in our state, now when we're dealing with South Dakota, Minnesota, states that allow that, potentially I think North Dakota as well, then that is now kind of an open exchange. So Tom, I don't know if you want to jump in on any of that.
No, I think you gave good advice. Just check with them. I would guess that that's not going to be an issue. I mean, if the Department of Ed, which they didn't, but if they were to change our rule to say 22-year-olds could play, then maybe that'd be a problem. But when it goes down a level, most likely not, but always safe to check.
Okay. Will there be a model policy template for us to use as a starting point as we work to develop one with our board? Will that come from IASB? I think that that's a great question for IASB, and that's something that we can pose to them, is having some of that communication with them, because I do think that would, I see Tom already making a note. I think that would be a great thing to come from IASB, and they can, we've got a good relationship with them. So if they had questions for us, so we could work with them on that. So stay tuned for more on that. And then to clarify, a student cannot start on a middle school team, then transition to a high school team as the season progresses. That is correct. They cannot do that. So again, making that decision, it's one or the other, and kind of going from there. Okay, if a kid, along that same vein, if a kid is starting the year up but really struggles, can you permanently move them back down? No. Again, there is no, for lack of a better term, like cross-contamination. No crossing the streams on some of this, right? So again, the decision has to make, and you may have to live with the fact that for a sports season, maybe you didn't make the right decision, right? So I think that's just a conversation that you need to really have on the front end with parents, coaches, of like this, try to reduce as much as you can. It shouldn't be a trial and error process. You should feel confident about the abilities of your student athletes. And if you're not sure, I would err on the side of lower level competition.
Can I add in on that, Aaron?
Yeah.
So New York actually has a rule that says that in order for any 8th grader to move up, number one, the head coach in that sport, not the freshman coach, the sophomore coach, the head coach has to recommend that the 8th grader move up. That's number one, at whatever, regardless of what level they're going to go to. Number two is a parent meeting and a parent sign off on, yep, we understand what this is going to involve, and we do that. An AD meeting with the parents and the coach and the athlete and the sign off. To me, I think that's where we go back to start slow, start small. If hope is not a strategy. And if you hope this kid is going to be able to compete at that level, then that may not happen. So try to put some things in place that ensure the opportunity for success. I think one of the most professional things a coach has to do is, and we as athletic administrators, in extension of that, one of the most important things we have to do professionally is find a spot for a kid where they can be challenged and have a chance for success. You can do one, right? You can challenge them all. You can move every eighth grader to the varsity. That'll be a challenge. Will they all have a chance for success doing that? Probably not. You could have them have a chance for success by leaving them at eighth grade and not moving them. Is it challenging them? Maybe for some of them it's not. And maybe moving to a freshman level or a JV level or even a varsity level might be a better place. Finding the sweet spot is the art. And I would encourage you to try to put into practice some things that will give you the opportunity to accomplish those two things. Find a spot for that young person, whether they're an 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grader. Where can they be challenged and still have a chance for success? And I don't think you can go wrong with that as a starting point. Thanks, Erin.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Okay, we're going to sorry, we're getting a lot right here, so I'm trying to kind of sift through this a little bit. What is the deadline for an eighth grader to choose in a particular sport? Again, this will be set by local policy. You guys need to have kind of a clear guidance on that. So it just says an eighth grader begins practice with other eighth graders. The high school coach sees or hears about them playing high school. Is there a date that needs to be declared by? Again, it's really what we will tell you is if they have not yet competed in that space, then that they would be, I don't want to say like free game to be able to do that, but they would still be eligible for competition. But this is something that would be needs to be a clear outline for your district in being able to understand when a roster limit is and or a roster declaration is. And that would be, if nothing else, by the first competition of either a junior high or the high school season, whichever one is coming first, I would say. Go ahead, Tom.
And I would say, Adam, and I'm not just singling you out because a lot of folks are using this word, but as my good friend, Dr. Ann Lebo says, words matter. And when we say things like an eighth grader choosing, I don't think that's the direction you want to go. I think it's where will the school give the opportunity to that student to participate? The eighth grader, I don't think you're going to want eighth graders to say, yeah, I want to play on the JV team, so that's where I go. That's not their prerogative. That's yours and your coaches. So I'd make sure that I'd keep that in perspective first, and then make those decisions accordingly. Erin, looks like we have a ton of questions here. And I'm going to pose something, which is that we can take these questions. We can work. I will work on them, and Erin and I will work on those today. We will get those posted. My concern is that we may be here for another, because
all morning.
Not that we don't want to answer the questions, but I think a lot of questions, even the answers, make us think of more questions, and so it may be a little bit more time efficient if we take these and then go ahead and put them into the guidance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's, again, we continue to get more and more, which is great. It means that you're all thinking about it. You have a lot of questions, but we want to be able to get these things to you in a timely manner. So we like Tom said, we will take all of these questions. condense them and go for it. Tom, you're pointing at me.
Yeah, there's one question in here about eighth graders and transfer, open enrollment, et cetera. Right now, they are not subject to that rule. That rule talks about ninth through 12th graders. So the DE, again, in the full rules process will address that. But as of now, that's not the case. So we will keep you posted on that. We will double check on that. But I saw that one and I thought, we might want to jump in on that. And so and it's, again, once a student enters ninth grade, if they've played, here's maybe this is where the question was going. One of the things Aaron and I have talked about is once you participate at the high school level as an eighth grader, you have established your athletic eligibility, similar to eighth grade baseball and softball. We know that by rule, a ninth grader is eligible wherever they go to school, unless by our practice, they have established their athletic eligibility by playing high school baseball or softball. That will be the same approach we take with eighth graders in all sports. Once they've established an athletic eligibility, if they attend a different school in ninth grade, they are now ineligible for varsity competition for 140 days. Does that make sense, Aaron, or am I confusing the issue?
Nope, I think that you were spot on with that. So again, I have so far taken everything that has been in the chat. I've copied and pasted that into a document for us to kind of sift through. We'll eliminate any of those things that feel redundant, and then get this sent back out to you, or we can post this on our website. Either way, we'll communicate with you then where some of these additional questions exist, and kind of go from there. Again, feel free to reach out to us, as we have been already answering some emails and some of those scenarios. But please, if you haven't done so already, please look at that document that we sent out, because I think a lot of these questions would have been answered through there. Again, we understand everybody wants to make sure and have clarifying points, but read through that if you haven't already, and at least start there. Tom, anything else that you want to add in?
No, I thank everybody, and I know this is one of those one more things, and it's a big one. It's not minor, and your community is going to be very interested in this, and we want to do our best to give you the best possible guidance that we can. And I think just know that we will never take the approach of, well, that'll never happen. Your questions are things that, if they're not going to happen at your district, they may happen somewhere else. So we want to make sure that we do our best to get those, we get those answered for you. So our goal will be to get these things reviewed and get them added to that frequently asked question sheet, post the updated sheet so that you can find it. And then as always, we are available. I know Aaron and I are both gone starting tomorrow through next Tuesday, but when we get a chance, we will check email, we will take phone calls, and get back to you as quickly as we can. Really appreciate you jumping on today, and I know it's busy time, but important stuff, and we're here to do our best to help you navigate through it. So please feel free to reach out.
I would just add to that is that you guys are all leaders in your district for a reason. You all have the ability to make great, sound decisions, and be the voice of reason and the voice of calm in your district right now, as there's, I'm sure you guys are getting peppered with a lot of questions as well. So take a breath, know that we're going to work with you through this, and we'll end up in a great spot.
Thanks, everybody.